All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a really powerful idea for any classroom, something called the culture of error. And it's all about systematically reframing mistakes, seeing them, not as failures, but as these incredible milestones for growth. To get started, let's get to the heart of the problem this whole idea is trying to solve.
Think about it for a second. It's a question every single one of us has felt, right? Why are students just so terrified of being wrong? Why does raising your hand to take a guess sometimes feel like the riskiest thing you can possibly do?
And here's the tough part, the provocative truth. A lot of the time, the environment itself, the classroom culture, actually teaches them to be afraid. But here's the amazing news. What's taught can be untaught. We can absolutely change that. So first, let's really frame this problem. We're talking about these deep emotional and, cognitive barriers that the fear of failure puts up. And we're going to talk about how to start taking them down, brick by brick. So what is a culture of error? Well, this concept comes from Doug Lemauve's amazing work in Teach Like a Champion. And the key thing to get is that this is not a one-time trick. It's a whole system. The goal is to make it so that every single mistake is seen as critical data, like a clue that helps us all figure out together where learning went off track so we can fix it. So why is this idea so powerful? Why does it actually work? Well, it turns out the answer is rooted in the science of safety. Let's dig into the psychology of why this approach isn't just nice, but necessary. It really all boils down to this one huge idea: psychological safety. Think about it. In high-stakes jobs, like pilots or surgeons, we know that people only take risks and speak up when they feel safe. It's the exact same in a classroom. For students to take an intellectual risk, they have to know, really know, that they can be wrong without being humiliated. And this connects perfectly to Carol Dweck's groundbreaking research. You've probably heard of it: fixed mindset versus growth mindset. A culture of error is basically a direct attack on that fixed mindset, the idea that you're either smart or you're not. Instead, it's designed to build a growth mindset, where the whole point is to get smarter by taking on challenges. And this is where it gets really practical, just in the language we use. Take a look at this table. When we say, "You're so smart," that's ability praise. We're accidentally tying their identity to being right all the time. But when we praise the process, "You worked so hard on that," we're building resilience. We're telling them that the effort is what counts, and that's something they can always control. Okay, so that's the why. Now for the how. Let's get into the practical playbook and break down 3 concrete things any educator can start doing today to build this culture. So here's our game plan. We're going to cover praising the analysis, using a technique called a show call for errors, and then the really big one, modeling it yourself. Let's jump into that first one. All right, mechanism number 1 is all about praise the analysis. This is where we fundamentally shift the conversation. We stop focusing on just the right or wrong answer and start focusing on the thinking that got them there. I absolutely love this phrase. Listen to it. That's a fantastic mistake. It's just brilliant because it does 2 things perfectly. First, it takes all the shame away. It's not your mistake. It's this fantastic one that we are all making. And second, it instantly turns what felt like a personal failure into this fascinating puzzle that the whole class gets to solve together. Okay, on to our second technique, which takes this idea a big step further. This is about actively finding those errors and using them as incredibly powerful teaching tools, but, and this is important, in a very specific and safe way. This all taps into a concept called productive struggle. Real deep learning doesn't happen when things are easy. It happens when our brain has to wrestle with something. And analyzing a really common, tricky mistake is a perfect way to create that healthy struggle for everybody in the room. But here is the absolute key, the secret sauce, if you will. The error has to be depersonalized. It has to be anonymous. You might pull it from some student work you saw earlier. That way, you get all of the brain-building benefit of the struggle with none of the emotional risk for the student. And that brings us to our third and, honestly, maybe the most powerful mechanism of them all. Because this one is all about what you, the teacher, the leader in the room, actually do. Just imagine a teacher stopping mid-sentence and saying this out loud. You know what? I just made a mistake. The message that sends is just incredible. It shows everyone that mistakes are normal, they're not a big deal, and that fixing them is just part of how we all learn, even the expert. And the ripple effects of this are huge. First, it builds incredible trust. It just normalizes making mistakes. But it also does something else. It teaches this hidden skill called metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking and fix it. That one simple act can anchor the entire culture.
Okay, so we've got our three pieces. Let's put them all together now and see how they combine to create something much bigger than the sum of their parts: the resilient learner.
You see, the real magic here is that these three techniques don't just exist side by side. They're not a checklist. They're more like these gears. They lock together and they create this amazing, self-reinforcing loop that just fuels growth. So the loop starts right here. The teacher models their own errors, which creates that psychological safety we talked about. And that safety is what encourages students to take their own risks, which, of course, means they're going to make some errors. Next, those errors become valuable fuel. By using an anonymous show call, the whole class gets to analyze the mistake. That creates productive struggle, and that leads to deep learning and a stronger understanding for everyone.
And finally, by praising the analysis, the effort, the thinking, you reinforce that the whole process is valuable. This closes the loop and motivates students to try again, to take another risk, because they know it's the effort, not just being right, that truly matters.
So let's just end with this one big thought. We spend so much time and energy teaching students how to get the right answer. But what if the most important, the most lasting lesson we could ever teach is how to be wrong? How to look at a mistake, learn from it, and bounce back even stronger? What if we taught them how to fail well?